The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies and also by the generous donations of you, the listener. Thank you very much for your continued support. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode 190. Game review of 2016. With hosts Neil Shuck, Mike Hobbs, Mike Whitaker and Dave Luff. Hello, Happy New Year and welcome to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. I am Neil Shuck and once again I am joined by the entire crew of the Meeples bunker. We have the Welsh Wizard joining us, rising from his sick bed, Mr. Michael Hobbs. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well.
Happy 2017.
Indeed. Happy New Year, mate. How you doing?
I'm okay. Yes. Well, 2016 was a pile of crap. Let's just hope the 17 is going to be a lot better. I've got a good feeling about it.
Well, I hear they've taken George R.R. Martin off the writing stuff.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
That was a mistake, indeed. Yes.
And I have to admit, I only have one complaint about... Well, I have several complaints about his writing on 2016 compared to Game of Thrones. I mean, yeah, the body count was fine, but where were the bloody boobs?
Depends which particular sites you went to. They are out there, Mike. You just got to search.
Take your word for it, Hobbsy.
I'll send you some links later. Well,
welcome to the show, Mr. Mike Whitaker. How are you, sir?
Evening, gents. Oh, good.
Happy New Year, mate. How's the cake been over Christmas?
The cake's been excellent. It sank very slightly. We're starting to suspect that our oven might be lying about its temperature, but otherwise it was very nice.
Marvellous, marvellous. And welcome to the Luffmeister himself. Hello, Dave. How you doing, mate?
Hello. Shattered. Can I go to bed?
All this hard work for yourself over the Christmas period?
Yeah, shattered.
Are you well? Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. And yeah, apart from being shattered, I'm fine.
Good. Okay, quick question before we go. All right, have we all now seen Rogue One?
No.
Yes.
So we can't have a conversation about it?
No,
it's not bad gaming anyway.
Personally, I couldn't believe they managed to get the Death Star plans over to Princess Leia at the end. That was a shock.
not at all.
What's the phrase? Spoilers. Did you know George Lucas is going to be directing the sequel?
Yeah. Got a good feeling about it.
Yeah, indeed. So, well, that's not that one on the head then. Right, okay.
Yep, sorry. Haven't had time to go see it yet.
Oh, well, never mind. Onward. Oh, so, as you say, Happy New Year, and as probably with almost every single gaming podcast you'll ever listen to, at this time of the year, we take a fond look back at the year and discuss our best and worst of 2016. Now, this is based not on new releases and new games, but simply based on what we've played. Okay, so we'll be talking about our favourite games 2016 of what we've played, not necessarily of the new games of 2016 or so. It's about what we're playing as opposed to any kind of new hotness or what have you. Okay. Right. So, in that case, I suppose we'll press on. So what we'll do, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we will have our top games of the year.
must get through to Sergeant Watson's position. Jenkins, cover me.
Sir.
Whoa. Sergeant Watson, bring your men in. Withdraw.
It's all right, sir. We're enjoying ourselves.
What?
Yes, sir. It's these here chain of command rules, sir. We're having great fun.
Chain of command?
That's right, sir. It's a challenging but fun blend of command and control. It gives me the freedom I want to fight the way I want to. Never had so much fun, sir. And we've cooked you some sausages. Can't be helped, sir. Me and the lads are staying put.
Chain of command, World War II, platoon level rules from two fat laddies. They really put you in control. And they're even better than sausages.
Okay, time for our top 5 games of 2016 in reverse order. So, we'll start off with our number 5 game of the year, and my number 5 is Multimate Glorium, which is the ancient set of rules that was published earlier this year by Simon Hall. It was a bit of a toss-up, actually, between that and another game, and I kind of think this one kind of just squeaked in, but it was a really close one, I think. Ancients, which is a period I love the different concepts in it, especially with the different activations and the way the combat works. Something a bit different. We discussed it in depth on episode 181, and what have you. And it is a really good game. Something a bit different. Probably going to be a mainstay for the Ancients gaming, for the next few years. I would imagine. There we go. Put my neck on the line.
What, more than Sword and Spear? You remember Sword and Spear, the one we all voted was probably the one that we'd pick as the best Ancients rule set?
Indeed, except for the fact that be prepared for shock and indeed horror. I haven't played Sword and Spear this year.
Shock and indeed horror.
Too many other things going on. It's not been the fact it hasn't been on the radar. It's just the fact that one thing or another we just haven't got around to playing it, which is why Multimate Glorium appears on the list and Sword and Spear doesn't. But that's my number 5.
And there you have it.
Wow. Shock and indeed horror, Mr. Hobbs.
My number 5 game is one that came out year before last, 7TV, second edition, by Cookie Dice.
Yes.
Yeah. We've started playing it the last quarter, and it's just a great game. Lots of characterization, small little gang game, fits in with everything really. We've done all sorts with it. And it's just a chance to be a bit silly, but it's a nice solid rules engine. So, well worth picking up. I can recommend episode 159 of the Meeples and Ninjas podcast, where we discuss it in great detail.
And were you doing a serious blog post about painting a gang for that a while ago? I
can't remember. Was I? Possibly. No, not painting the gang.
Freedom Fighters.
Freedom Fighters. Oh, that was a long time ago. That's my very irregular blog post for Blake 7 games, which appears, one post every couple of years.
Okay.
I don't want to, get people too excited. But yeah, we've been looking at Blake 7. Sorry, for the Future Freedom Fighters. We're looking at spy stuff. We're looking at Star Wars. We're using it as a base for an RPG based on a series called The Laundry, which is sort of like a paranormal Cthulhu-based CIA mashup thing set in Britain. So yeah, we're doing all sorts of it, and it's a nice rules engine, handles it all.
Oh, cool. Right, so that's your number 5. It's a good game. I am hopefully, he says, looking at doing some Star Wars with it next year.
Yeah, get the Star Wars add-on. It's good.
It is good. Well then, how about you, Mr. Whitaker? What's your number 5?
Well, mine is Halo Fleet Battles.
Ooh.
Which might surprise a few people. Had a couple of games down the club with AD, who is our resident Spartan Games pusher, for want of a better word. If Spartan Games produce it, he buys it fundamentally. And I really, really liked it. Nice activation mechanism, nice movement system, nice way of designing forces, basically. Played it shortly after I'd played Full Thrust for the first time, and you can sort of see the succession, I guess is the best word for it. There's certain overtones of Full Thrust in the way it works, but it's easy to get a hold of. Really simple. I like the way it plays. If you want to get a playable copy, you just go and cross Spartan Farm with Silver, and they'll sell you a box. What's not to like? Meeples episode 151 in this case, if you want the full gory details.
Indeed. Yes, I'm looking at it. Yeah. I've recently bought some extra fleets for it, some extra ships, and as with many other things, it's on my list. I've been getting a lot of flack for the fact that I've got boxes of this stuff which have yet to see, have yet to have their sprues clipped. But there's a couple of guys at work that are interested in this, and of course I have to do it at work because my regular playing partner doesn't do sci-fi. Do you, Dave?
Of course not.
What? What's that?
Sorry, for a second, Dave sounded just like Mr. Whitaker. I was just saying, Dave, you don't do sci-fi.
Oh. What? Sorry, what's sci-fi?
Okay, yeah. Point. Yeah. Enough said. So, but I'm hoping to do that next year. All right, Halo Fleet Battles. Woohoo! Yes.
Mm. Yes, I may actually at some point shell out for some, but given that AD has boxes of stuff, and it gets played at club, there's no point.
Mm. Right. Okay. So.
Sorry. I didn't understand what Mike just said. No point in buying miniatures. That's a very odd
all right.
concept.
Let's put it another way. It's a long way down the list.
It's a very contentious statement, isn't it?
If you're going to muddy the water by having lists, Mr. Whitaker, I'm going to have to lose a bit more respect for you. I thought you were a man like me who just goes out and buys things.
I'd point out that the entire purpose of this episode is a list.
If we're going to use semantics against me, then I'll just shut up.
Talking of people who don't go out and buy miniatures. Hello, Dave. What's your 5th game?
My 5th game. Hang on, I've got to look down here. Right, I think actually it'll be after long deliberation and not being able to work out and realising actually I've not actually played that many games this year. If you're not allowing me to count computer games, it's got to be Thunderbirds. I think the cooperative game for me.
Oh, good
5.
choice. Good choice. Yes.
Yeah. After a bit of prompting from you earlier on about what games we had played, because I couldn't remember, and what games I have possibly played, which I
Dave,
remember.
I'll give you a clue. Board Game Geek is your friend.
Yeah. Well, I stopped doing the list like you did. I did used to book all my plays, and I don't know what happened. At some point in time, I stopped doing it, and it hasn't happened since. Probably about 8 years ago, probably. Yeah, Thunderbirds, definitely good cooperative game. Probably I think one of the best cooperative games out there. I think, to be honest. Yeah, well, it is for me anyway.
It's always good when you know somebody who's gone all in on the Kickstarter.
Well, I think the problem is it's like all cooperative games, probably more so than normal games. It also depends a lot on who you're playing with, whether it ends up being a good game or not.
Indeed. Hello to Dave and hello to Rich. I know Dave now listens to the podcast, which is rather scary considering I work with him.
Poor deluded fool.
So just
That means he's going to have to do overtime, that will, if he listens to this.
So just to say, at this point, hello, Dave. Okay, but yeah, it's Dave's game because he bought it on the understanding that I could arrange to play it with him. But it's a cracking game. Matt Leacock, so it's similar sorts of mechanics to what you might come across in things like Pandemic and stuff. But lots of different things, and it's a game that'll kick your butt if you're not careful. Bags of flavour, and I mean, it's Thunderbirds, what's not to like, eh? Moving on, right, number 4, right, my number 4, right, this year has been a little bit, especially the latter half of this year, has been a little bit, the year of rediscovery for me. Playing games I haven't played for a while, and especially discovering games that I actually haven't played for longer than I thought I had. And mate, number 4 is Lord of the Rings, the card game. Big Lord of the Rings fan. This originally came out in 2011, maybe 2012, and played it a lot when it first came out. It is a cooperative, card-driven adventure game, where you play, you play against the game and what have you. And yeah, it's a deck building game. So it depends whether you're into deck building games. I must admit, I don't really enjoy the meta of deck building games so much. But it's an opportunity to play heroes and play scenarios in the Lord of the Rings universe. It's a little bit more kind of almost like role-play light, if you like. Dead easy to set up, dead easy to put together, and great fun. I play it an awful lot with Josh. We kind of rediscovered it towards the back end of this year, because Josh has been on at me for a while to play it again. So we started, and we've been playing it pretty much every time we've got together since. The only problem now being is that I suddenly realised just how far behind I am in all the expansions and all the extra scenarios. I'm suddenly going, hang on, I've got to get X, Y, Z, you know. So my shopping list for stuff has suddenly gone through the roof. But hey,
more reasons to spend money.
Always. I mean, it's fancy flight games, so components are top notch. Okay, it's only cards, but I mean, the artwork on the cards and stuff is absolutely fantastic. Bags of flavour as far as, you know, the whole Lord of the Rings sort of things are concerned. It just scratches that itch for like an RPG light. Great fun, great game. I haven't played it for, as it turns out, about 3 years. I thought it wasn't as long as that, but I haven't played it for about 3 years and really discovered just what a good game it is. Great fun. Lord of the Rings is a card game. Mr. Hobbs, what's number 4 on your list?
Yes, number 4 on my list, probably no shock to anybody, Sword and Spear, written by Mark Lewis, and now produced by Great Escape Games. I spent probably the first half of last year, 2016, playtesting the fantasy version, played lots of the historical games, and I just love it. And we've spoken about it loads of times. There's the review on episode 160 from Mark. Yeah, for me, it's a standout ancient game, and I just love it. And it works really well with fantasy. Just wish that, Stu, come on, Stu, put your finger out and get the fantasy version.
I'd say, wasn't the fantasy version meant to be out by now?
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. I really am looking forward to that. That should be loads of fun. Yeah, and as you may have heard on our last show, I think all 4 of us basically turned around and went, "It's our favourite Ancients game."
Yeah, and I played it a lot. It's a great game.
Cool, good stuff. Right, Mr. Whitaker, you're number 4.
Yeah, it's Altar of Freedom, American Civil War set rules, which are actually, as I understand it, quite old. For those who remember my Meeples road trip in the summer, I ran into the guys from the Williamsburg Legati. Hi to Ron and friends. And we wound up playing Altar of Freedom, which I was very, very taken by. It has a really nice, innovative activation mechanism, which gives you some interesting scope for, do I want lots of activations and let my opponent have a few, or do I want not very many activations and really screw with my opponent if I can get the ones I want to get in? So there's some interesting command of control. There's some very clever ideas in there, and it feels right. It seems to replicate the period in a way that feels right. You can reinforce lines of fire in a way that just kind of feels it's a bit sort of GBX element based, but without feeling quite so clunky and artificial. And I said I'm well taken with it, and you can find a slightly longer review of it in Meeples 175, in fact, which also has my little jaunt to Historicon. But yes, at some point, as I've said in the past, I'm intending to pick up some 6 or 10 mil ACW, and I think those will be my rules of choice if I don't go with Pickett's Charge. Or both, who knows? Or on to Richmond. It's becoming something of a tradition that my annual list includes one obscure set of American Civil War
something
rules,
like
isn't it?
that. Yeah, I was saying, wasn't it on to Richmond last year? I think of them.
It was on to Richmond
indeed.
last year. Yeah, I think of the two, I marginally prefer Altar of Freedom. It's certainly I'd like to play both again, but I think I'm more keen on playing Altar of Freedom again if I get a chance. So there you have it.
Right. Altar of Freedom. Right. Okay, Mr. Luff, what's your number 4, please, sir?
Oh, number 4. I suppose it's going back a little bit now. Probably a game I sort of forgot that I had, even though I knew it was on the shelf, and rediscovered it. Probably Kingsburg, seeing it's back in print as well. I've got one of the original copies and the expansion, but yeah, the worker placement and I suppose it's a resource management game, isn't it?
It's got meeples in it.
No, it's not.
Well, no, it's not got meeples in it. It's got dice, which I suppose are meeples, really, in that. That's your worker placement, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those games, not played it for a while, you play it again, you're like, oh, this is such a good game. Yeah. Yeah, always been a long favourite of mine, and continues to be. And now it's back in print. If anyone's after a copy, I've definitely gone worth getting.
And Dave is horribly good at it.
Too kind, Neil.
Well, hang on.
It's just like playing with paras, is it, Dave?
It's a dice rolling game. He's good at dice rolling games. Right. Well, that's our number 4s. Okay, we'll go on to our number 3s. Okay, so my number 3, which is, again, a bit of a blast from the past. X-Wing the Miniatures game. Played a lot of X-Wing this year. Got back in.
Turn to the dark side.
Got back into it playing with Josh, and then, as has been documented, I then entered a tournament at Upper Galactic Models. Just if nothing else, to find some different opponents. Really enjoyed it. Not a huge fan of the meta. I think it's a game that as with a lot of collectibles games, if you're going to play it competitively, I think as Fantasy Flight actually intend you, if you're playing in tournament-wise, you probably need to keep up with the releases for whatever side you're playing, be that Rebels or Scum or Imperials or what have you. So, yeah, they will probably like you to keep purchasing ships, so you, if nothing else, you keep up with the upgrade cards. Not a huge fan of that. And to be honest, it is one of these things where you think it should, 100-point game. It should be balanced. Not 100% sure whether it is, whether you can still win with an older squadron or not.
There is. Let's face it. It's something for a later rant. It's a game to set of rules to sell the miniatures. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes and no. However, I mean, there are other ways of playing the game, and I think the cooperative version that has been produced is a really interesting way of playing, and to be honest, I prefer playing it just as I'm looking at that. Other than that, just playing it as a friendly game. I have a selection of ships. Yes, I'm going to get a couple more because, foolishly or otherwise, I've entered into original next year. Just have just have a bit of a laugh and a giggle. We'll see how we get on. I do enjoy it. And it is one of those games that you can get out and you can unpack, get out, and be playing in 10 minutes. So whilst the meta isn't so hot as just a casual pickup game, X-Wing, I think Star Wars Fighters ticks all my boxes.
Indeedy.
Yeah. So what's not to like from that point of view? I'm just conscious that it's clear that Fantasy Flight are keen on the tournament scene because sells them miniatures.
Oh, certainly, certainly, yeah. I mean, as you say, there was a particular argument down that, which I think, we'll come to probably on a later show.
A later grumpy old game.
Indeed.
Sorry, very grumpy gamers.
Very grumpy gamers, indeed. Yes. Right. Okay, moving on to Mr. Hobbs. Mr. Hobbs is number 3, features higher on somebody else's list, so we'll come back to that. Mr. Whitaker.
Kings of War version 2.
Ooh. It's a bit of a surprise.
You're surprised?
Yeah.
Really?
Really? Mike plays it a lot.
Oh, we had a very good club campaign stroke ladder stroke whatever you want to call it. It sort of semi-map based campaign over the latter half of the year, and I had a great time. It's very, very. It's one of these nice. I think I've described other rule sets the same way, in that it's very fast that you stop needing to actively look at the rules and can just get on with playing the game. There's not a lot to learn. It's classic Mantic in that there's very few cool mechanics, and once you've got those sussed, you've got them sussed. You can use anything you flipping well like. I mean, I've spent the campaign playing a Kingdoms of Men army, which was a mixture of Romans, Parthians, and I think some ancient British chariots. So, whatever, from that point of view, nobody's that fussed. The basing is nice and simple. You can use sew-up bases to just plonk single figures on if you need to, or you can build up big bases because it's a unit-based system. So your unit is either there or it's run away, and there is no in between. So you're not figure removing or casualty. You count shock equivalent, but that's it. And nice and simple game. The meta isn't too painful, although I suspect if you play at the tournament level, then the magic word, the current meta, appears all over the shop, and frankly I don't care because I will not be playing at tournament level. But at a club sort of fun game level, it's fun. And then there's also Kings of War Historical, which is basically take the same set of rules and I get to use my Parthians as actual Parthians. So yeah, it was fun. It's a nice simple game. It's easy to pick up. If you don't mind the mechanics, which are different to the likes of WAB or Warhammer Fantasy, then it's fine. A couple of our club got a bit hung up on the way morale loss and units disappearing happen. But if you're okay with that, which it doesn't take long to get used to, then it's good fun. End of.
Cool. And Mr. Luff's number 3 appears higher up on somebody else's list. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Right, so on to our number 2s. And we'll start with myself. And my number 2 features higher on somebody else's list. So I won't talk about my number 2. Which I'm sure everybody will be very much relieved about. So, on to Mr. Hobbs. What's your second most popular...
When you're ready, mate. When you're ready.
What's your second best game of 2016?
Commands and Colours. And don't ask me to say which one, because I like them all. I like all of them that I've played.
It's not just Napoleonic or Ancients, it's...
Yeah, I played 4 versions of it this year. I've done the Ancients, the Napoleonic, the Fantasy Battle Law, and the Great War. And I just love them. This whole year has been a real change in my style of play. I'm playing board games at last, which I've never really done before. Commands and Colours is just fabulous. I'm turning into a bit of a fanboy. But it's just a great game that you can throw out. Okay, it's a bit of a faff having to stick the stickers onto both sides of the counters, Mr. Luff. But once you've done that, and you've designed your little boxes to store them in, because you're an anal retentive person, it's great. It's nice and easy to set up. Lots of historical scenarios. The Battle Law has got a really good sort of scenario generator built into it. Each version has got expansions which just extend the game or the games nicely, and yeah, it's a fantastic set of games. I can't really say much more about it. I think we should probably discuss it in a bit more detail on the podcast, because we never really got into the rules mechanics or anything.
I know. I mean, we covered it a long time ago, but it's probably worth us. It's probably worth us coming back to it, especially as you say, since there are so many different versions out there. But yeah, I mean, it's a cracking set.
Yeah, and they're all subtly different, and they just give you a nice flavour. So that's my number 2.
Great. Right, Mr. Whitaker, what's your number 2, sir?
Shouldn't surprise anyone, this one, should it? I ain't been shot one. For those who've been living under a rock for the last 3 months, you may have noticed that we've played about 7 or 8 games of it down the club. And I've literally just started rediscovering just how awesome a rule set it is. It is basically the rule set that got me hooked on this podcast and Two Fat Laddies. It's not perfect. I've gone on record a number of times as saying that it desperately needs an index and a better QRS, but the core mechanics are brilliant. Everybody I've taught it to who's got any interest at all in proper historical wargaming has sort of gone through about half of it and gone and had much the same kind of light bulb go on that went on with me in Meeples. I think it was episode 880 or something. I can't remember. Way back in Christmas 2011 or so, when you interviewed Rich about I had been Shotgun 3 in the first place. And about halfway through that episode, I went, oh, yeah. That's how it's meant to work. And nearly everybody I've shown the game to has had that, oh yes, that's how it's meant to work moment about halfway through, as they realise that their platoon commander they've just had the opportunity to send their platoon commander herring down the flank to chase up with its lead section and tell it and change its orders in an entirely sort of historically appropriate kind of manner. And it's probably the thing I have most investment in that I have more boxes of them. About the only thing that runs it close might be the amount of unpainted Napoleon at War I've got. But as I said, I own more Battlefront than most Flames of War players. And having just discovered I can 3D print toys as well, it's getting ridiculous. So, yeah, there will be a club campaign at the start of next year. We've also just discovered the fun of Italy as opposed to Normandy as a place to play. So there will be more fun stuff probably appearing in battle reports and what I've done this week's from me fairly soon.
Cool.
I ain't been shot, man.
That's Mr. Whitaker's number 2. Mr. Luff's number 2 features higher on somebody else's list. So we'll come back to that in a minute. And so we are on to favourite games of 2016.
I'm not even going to guess because I think I have a pretty good idea what the 2 games that feature in this list are.
Right, okay, so...
am I right?
Well, by my count, 3. Okay, so we'll start off with the game that is my number 1, but it's also Mr. Luff's number 2, and that is Chain of Command. It's a game it's a game that we have that we played pretty solidly for the first half of the year, isn't that right, Dave?
Yep.
And what can be said? I mean, well, it hasn't already been said by us already. In our opinion, the best World War II skirmish game currently on the market. Yeah, platoon level, shall we say, as opposed to anything lower. But yeah, certainly platoon level. What would you say about it, Mr. Luff? Why was it your number 2?
Not well. Oh, crikey. Wait, I think I'm trying to think of something that's not been said before when we've talked about Chain and Command, and I can't really think of anything because we covered it so much over the last year or two. Well, I suppose the thing is, why it is still number 2 is because it still just keeps on giving. If that makes any sense, the game does.
Yeah, I think and especially with conversations that we've had with Rich. I mean, yeah, Richard said and something that we said. I mean, if you wanted to, I think both of us would be quite happy that if all we ever did was play Chain of Command in Normandy 1944. I don't think either of us would be particularly unhappy with that, would we?
No, not at all.
No. Although I would stipulate that at some point you would have to stop playing Paris.
Yeah. Well, I've had no problems beating Paris.
Yeah, I hope you weren't going to go there, but there we go.
I think you walked straight into that one, matey.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, for me, there's no other World War II game out there that I particularly want to play because that just scratches the itch, and that's it now for me.
Yeah, and it was particularly satisfying to finally get my toys out on the table this year. For the first time in I don't know how long, I finally got my own painted army for Chain of Command out on the table.
Yeah, I never thought it would happen.
And it was particularly satisfying. So Mr. Hobbs's late war Germans were retired and returned back to him so they could lick their wounds. And
they were blamed so much, Hobbsy. They were.
It's understandable. They're very inferior models.
The trouble was the replacements weren't any better.
Well, that's very characteristic of the German army in 1944.
Okay, yeah, so my number one, Dave's number two. Yeah, Chain of Command. Put it this way, I think at this point in time, it would have to be a very good game that knocks it off the number one spot at this point.
I can't see anything coming, to be honest. I can't. No, even some of the bigger games, I mean, it's just that empty battlefield feeling that you get from Chain of Command, which I do quite like. Actually,
what do you mean when you play it in the proper scale?
Yeah, like I say, it has to be in 15s really as well, because it's just when I go to shows now and just see other tables when it's just wall to wall figures. There's a flank of 2 inches on the 6x4 table. It's just, I don't know. There's no mobility as there is playing Chain of Command in 15mm. It's just, you think, oh yeah, look, there's flanks and there's, I can nip round this house and pop out the other side and cause problems.
And jeeps and armoured cars.
Oh yeah. That's the other thing, isn't it? That suddenly a Jeep becomes a real major piece of kit with a 50 cal on it, or a little armoured car becomes a major piece of kit, and then you actually start appreciating about how useful they actually were, as opposed to let's say some of the other games where unless you've got something big and heavy on the table, everything else is pretty much waste of time.
It's a great game. Okay, so as I say, my number one, Dave's number two, Chain of Command. Right, on to Mr. Hobbs, and indeed Mr. Whitaker. So, share with us your number one game.
Shall I do the first word, Mike, and you do the second?
Go for it.
Our number one game of 2016
is...
Do you want to try that again?
Yeah, you do that, I'll do this, you do that. Go on, take it.
It's a Sharp
Practice 2.
Oh, yeah,
You forgot the 2. You forgot the 2.
I don't know if I get the 2. Yeah,
It's kind of
Sharp
important
Practice.
because it's not the same game.
It isn't, no.
Do you want to do it again? Do you want to do that?
That was a classic Meeples. Let's just bundle our way through it until we get something in the end.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I shall look forward to editing that. Yeah, thank you.
No, you won't.
Oh, don't just check it.
Sharp Practice 2. What can you say? The problem with Sharp Practice 2 is you flick through the
hang on a minute. Mr. Hobbs.
I'm gonna let Mr. Whitaker first. Go on, Mike.
Oh, okay. Go on.
The problem with Sharp Practice 2, before I was so rudely interrupted by Mr. Shuck, is that you sit there and you flick through the rules and you go, I could do this period, I could do this setting, I could do this setting, I could do... And by the time you finish, you look up and your Foundry/Perry shopping list is about, wince-worthy levels of sort of 30, 40 figures times 5 or 6 long, which is a kind of a good problem to have, really, and rather a good advert for the rules, I think. Would you not say so, sir?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I played it again, probably the most of any game this year. It's got me back into Napoleon. It actually got me into Napoleonics in 28mm properly. I've done the War of 1812 stuff, which has just been incredible. I'm looking at doing a Peninsular War, and as you say, Mike, it makes you look at other eras and think, I could just knock together 40 figures for that. I love the campaign system that's come out. I've been flicking through that.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah. I like the characterization, and I love the fact that it doesn't take itself too seriously.
It's a Lardy's game, for crying out loud. And the other testimony to it is walk round the other partisan, count the number of Sharp Practice 2 games. It was ridiculous. It just literally everybody, 4 or 5.
4, yeah.
Including that stunning 18 Retreat from Moscow game. There was a Carlist Wars game. There was Rich's Viva vs Vegas. There was at least one other, and it was just like, this rule set's been out how long? Yeah, which easy to pick up.
6 months.
Less than that at that point.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I think it's the Two Fat Lardy's finest game. I really do, and I love Chain of Command. I think like you guys, I think Chain of Command is the finest platoon level World War II game out there. But I think Sharp Practice takes that to a new level. It's just fantastic. And
there's 2 other Lardy's games on my list that didn't even make it onto the top 5, and that's largely because I didn't want a list that was completely made up of 2 Fat Lardy's games. Because quite frankly, I couldn't have gone down to number 4 without actually leaving the products of Messrs. Clark and Skinner, which would have been a bit silly. But yeah, it's my number 1, which must say something. It was a damn close run thing between I Ain't Been Shot Mum, and I mostly gave it to Sharp Practice 2 because it was new. But there wasn't a lot in that. They're 2 very, very different games. There are things about Sharp Practice. Sharp Practice appeals to the role player in me for the same reason that Dux Brick does.
The story.
Does the story. I Ain't Been Shot Mum appeals to the wargamer in me, just because you can. I cut my teeth on effectively company level World War II, and I Ain't Been Shot Mum, to my mind, is the perfect expression of it. So it was a close run thing.
Yeah, no, it's just fab. You can't say anything more about it. And if you listen to episode 167, you'll hear Mr. Clark wax lyrically about it.
Indeed, and also episode, what was it, 187, where we talked about the campaign supplement.
And I'm pretty sure that we've raved about it on other occasions as well.
Indeed. Right, so which only leaves us with somebody else's number 1 game, which is also in both my list as number 2, Mr. Hobbs' list as number 3, and Mr. Luff. What have you got to say for yourself? Because you cheated.
I cheated? Oh, dear. Some might say it's because I couldn't think of anything else, but actually it's not. Because I did have a few else in the bag. So for my number 3 and number 1 would be Conan.
Pray tell, sir, why have you got it in 2 different places?
Well, because I think we mentioned this slightly when we reviewed it. So avid listeners will be thinking, I know why he's done that. because we played it initially, just you and myself, Neil, and I played all the characters.
Yes.
And you were playing the Overlord or Dungeon Master or whatever you want to call it this week. I'd have that on level. I'd have that on my 3 position, and then I played the game with our budding gaming group that's sort of started this year, and I played it sort of like as a team, didn't I? So we played 1 hero each against yourself as the Overlord again.
Yes.
Which made a very different game, and that was my favourite version. But I think, as we've said before, I think it all depends on who you're playing with. I'm sure there's a few gaming people I've played with over the years who could have ended up making the team version probably bottom of the list. Or not even make it into my top 5 this year. But yeah. So, yeah, Conan. All the way.
It is true that playing as a 2-player or playing as and playing as, for want of a better phrase, the way it was designed, are 2 different playing experiences. So, from that side of things, they are almost two different games. However, I was surprised with... It was my number 2. I'm surprised with just how good a game it was. When you backed the game in the first place, it looked a decent game. Obviously, one of the huge selling points was just the sheer amount of minis you got when you backed it, which are useful for so many other things. And there's so many other Conan things. More of which later in the year. But actually, just the game itself was better than I expected it to be. I haven't actually had a chance to play as a hero yet. I've only played as the Overlord. But I'm massively enjoying it. How about you, Mr. Hobbs?
I came into the game on the Kickstarter because of the figures, and nothing more, because at that time I wasn't playing board games and I had no interest in board games. But I looked at the figures and I was following the thread on Lead Adventures forum.
I say, because you backed it simply because it was Conan, didn't you?
You know, I grew up reading the books. I was a huge Conan fan. And I started following the threads 6 months, maybe a year before the game actually came to Kickstarter, and they were showing some of the initial figures they were getting sculpted. And I just thought, those figures are lush. I want them. You know, for a fantasy game. I didn't know what fantasy game, probably Everworld or, you know, whatever it was. But I just wanted them. And then when the Kickstarter came in and they started showing the videos, the gameplay, I got hooked. I'd never seen a game played like that before. I'd never seen that sort of style and that freedom. And yeah, it's been a long time waiting for it. But I can't describe how giddy I was when I had my box. I was tracking my box as it arrived through the DPD app.
Yes.
Yeah, and when it arrived, I was at the door, literally shaking up, jumping up and down, going, "Oh, give me my box!" And then trying to struggle upstairs with the bloody thing because it weighed a ton.
It was as big as you were.
It was as big as me. Yeah. And yeah, there's some issues with the rule book, but if you've got half a brain, you'll work it out. And you know, we've played scenarios and we got the rules wrong, but it didn't detract from the game. It's a great game. It's got great figures. It would have been, in any other year, this would have been my game of the year, but simply because I've only had it for 2 months, or 2.5 months. I haven't played it enough for it to be that higher level, but it's just fab, absolutely fab.
Yeah. Difficult to actually say. I mean, I don't think it's the only other game that we played this year, I think, between myself and Dave, where we have played it solidly for several weeks, and without wanting a break. You know, it's like, what are we playing? Oh yeah, oh no, we're playing Conan again. And the only other game we've done that this year is Shining Command. It scratches so many different itches. I mean, we were discussing, weren't we, Dave, about you were wanting a kind of dungeon bash sort of game, weren't you?
Yeah.
And does it scratch the itch for you, or are you still looking for something else?
And so on, but I mean it does scratch very much that itch to a certain extent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably sort of scratches that itch in its own right, if that makes any sense, rather than something that I was sort of specifically looking for.
You mean it scratches an itch you didn't know you had?
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with the campaign book.
Yes.
I don't know if you two have...
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think that'll be interesting. And of course, Modiphius have done the add-on for their Conan roleplay game, which has, sort of tiles that you can use, and they've done a supplement specifically for Conan the board game.
Yeah,
and that's expanding it again. So.
It'll be interesting to see just what they're doing with the source book they're doing for that, because if that's giving all the options from the RPG side for creating your own scenarios. Well, at that point,
let's not even mention the Mythic Battles tie-in.
Of course, yeah. Yeah. So there's lots of ways this game can go, but the core game itself is fantastically solid.
I can see that for the amount of bed there is in my bookshelf where it's sitting.
Indeed. Yes. Cracking game.
Still a shrink wrap, I should add.
I was going to say, Mr. Whitaker, open the box.
Open the box!
For goodness sake, get it out.
No, It has been opened. It has not been played. It may get played on Thursday evening, if we decide what we're going to play. I have several unopened, very nice games that need playing.
Right.
There's that. There's Dungeon Saga. There's Dead of Winter. There's a box of Star Wars Armada, but I'm probably going to play that down the club in a couple of weeks' time. Oh, decisions! I've got gaming coming up. This will be fun.
Right. So anyway, that is our top 5 games of the year. So just to confirm, basically our number 1 games are divided between 3. So we've got Chain of Command, Sharp Practice, and then Conan. So there you have it. Okay, so that's our top 5, but there's, I think all of us, maybe, well, possibly with the exception of Mr. Luff, I've got games that are kind of bubbling around just under the top 5, honourable mentions. So before we finish off this section, we'll just kind of mention those a little bit. Okay, so my honourable mentions for this year, actually Sharp Practice fell in with those honourable mentions, and that was when I was umming and ahhing whether that was going to be my number 5 as opposed to Mortem Gloriam, and it boils down to haven't played it enough. Certainly haven't got my own force, but it's on the list for next year. We've kind of decided what we're going to do, haven't we, Mr. Luff?
Yep. Yeah.
But we've decided that we are being harsh on ourselves, and we're only going to start on it once we've got Market Laden out the way, because we've got to concentrate on getting our Market Laden scenario done first before we get distracted with Sharp Practice 2.
Yeah.
We're being very disciplined. We're going to correction. Dave's being very disciplined and dragging me kicking and screaming behind him. And we're going to do it in 15mm.
Proper scale.
No comment.
Which I must admit, on this one, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, because I'm looking at things like the Waterloo box set and the Black Powder and all the plastics and the Perrys and stuff. Going, I'd like to do it in 28mm, but I'm being overridden.
Well,
Dave, in short, Dave's meanie.
Well, it wasn't that. It was the fact that Neil I said to him, okay, we'll do it in 28mm. Give me one logical reason why we should do it in 28mm. And he couldn't
Because,
come up with
look,
one.
shiny.
Couldn't come up with one. He couldn't come up with one.
You've just got it browbeaten, Dave.
No, I just asked him. I said, give me a logical reason. And he couldn't, and he said, you know what, I can't come up with one.
Wider choice of prettier figures.
I must admit, I am struggling just slightly for some character figures in what we're choosing to do. I've been looking around, but
Also, so wider choice of prettier buildings.
no, we're making our own buildings.
Making our own buildings.
Yeah.
The thing is what we've already got as well. That's the thing. We've got so much terrain already that we can already use. And the point was, I said to Neil, was, do we really want, if we're going to do this, okay, we can do this. But do you really want to do it all in 28mm now? And the look on his face was, well, said it all, really.
What, you mean when I said, yeah? And you went, no! Slap. Wrong answer, Shuck.
You do make a valid point. So. And it'd be interesting to see it in 15mm.
Don't you just hate it when he makes valid points, when he's being sensible? It's like, yeah, okay.
And then, of course, if we had 28mm, then we've got to find somewhere to store it all as well.
Yeah, I know. I know that. Yeah, but anyway, we're looking at doing French-Indian War with the Blue Moon range. Is it? I think it's Blue Moon, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when you can basically buy an entire Sharp Practice army in Blue Moon for about like £25.
Yeah.
It's great.
And we haven't got to spend like 3 months making the scenery, so we can actually get the army painted and start playing.
And then just add a few bits of scenery as and when if you know, and as I say, things like, especially since we're doing French-Indian War, since everything is kind of, you know, wooden and hand built anyway. And to be honest, that's one thing I've discovered this year, is that I really enjoy making buildings and making scenery. I've really enjoyed that this year. So there we go. So that was longer than I expected. One of my honourable mentions, 2 others: Project Elite, board game I bought this year, which is rather fun. Real-time cooperative game, absolutely crazy. but good fun. And what was the other one? Oh, Saga. The other one was Saga. Got to play Saga again this year after a couple of years off. Mainly thanks to Per Bowden, and him wanting us to get involved in running it at the Joy of Six. And yeah, it was one of those things of nice to get back into Saga and remember just how what a good game it was. So hopefully we'll be playing a bit more of that this year. But yeah, honorable mention, Saga. That's mine.
Okay, 3 very quick ones from me. Spearpoint 1943.
Ooh, card game.
Card game. Yeah. Again, never played a card game. Was interested after we spoke to Byron Collins on one of the podcasts, which I haven't got the number for. But yeah, it was a really interesting game, and we've played it a few times. And it's a nice sort of, if you've got half an hour free, set it up, play a game. It's good. It's tactical. It's interesting. It's different. You get to roll d10s, which is always fun. Yeah, I can't really say much more about it. But it's a good game, and it's worth picking up if you're interested in it. Other one is Imperial Assault by Fantasy Flight Games.
Ooh, yes.
But specifically the skirmish mode. We haven't played enough of the campaign mode. We've only done one game, and I'm not sure about the campaign mode. I prefer having a gang, if that makes sense. It's just having one person in Star Wars. But it's good. It's a classic Fantasy Flight Games, fantastic miniatures, good mechanics. You can't ask for any more. And finally, one that came out on Christmas Day was Odin's Ravens.
Ooh,
which I
late
borrowed,
entry.
Yes, I borrowed from Annie because the Whiff fancied playing a game, and she's very competitive. So I thought, I'm not playing her in Monopoly. So I thought we'll play a nice, gentle game of Odin's Ravens. And she got very competitive and then demanded that we go for a best of 3 and then a best of 5.
Did he get to best? Did he get to best of 7?
No. We sort of called it. But a great little game. Again, it's a card-based game, really simple mechanics, fun to play. Takes half an hour, if that. Well worth picking up. So that's mine.
Cool. Mr. Whitaker.
Okay, so a couple of obvious ones. Chain of Command, which I think we've covered enough. Dux Britanniarum, for, I trust, obvious reasons. Got back into playing that this year. It's still as much fun as it ever was. And you can see where Dawn's Departures has sort of branched off from there. And how the card deck in Dux Brit has become the chits in Sharp Practice. And it's all really rather fab still. It's got longevity, which is always a good thing, and replay value, which makes it's all too easy to find games with preset scenarios where you sit there and you've done, well, I've done all these scenarios, and it's all boring now. And the way the Dux Brit raids are structured, they're pretty much infinite replay value because no two tables will be the same. You don't know what you're going to play when you set the table up. You don't even know where you're going to deploy when you set the table up. And it always makes for interesting tactical challenges. And it's great fun. And I had another one, and I can't remember what it was. Help, Neil!
I don't know, because you didn't send me your honourable mentions.
No, because I suddenly thought of one while you were talking, and about the point that one vanished from your mind, that it vanished from my mind as well.
No, okay.
So,
in that case, in that case, then I forgot one. Halo Grand Command.
Ah, and I've remembered mine as well.
So mine was so what I forgot. Halo Grand Command. I haven't played it much. I think twice. Great game, really enjoyed it, but hadn't played it enough for it to get into my top 5. But hopefully get some more games next year.
And mine, reminded by you mentioning Halo, was of course Full Thrust.
Oh, wow.
Which Dan from the club introduced me to earlier in the year. And as I said when I was mentioning Halo Fleet Battles, there's a clear lineage from one to other. But I really enjoyed the couple of games of Full Thrust I had. It's still got... From what I understand of how old the rule set is, it was ahead of its time. And-
Especially if you play with vectored movement.
Oh, yeah. Head explodes! But, yes, really, really enjoyed the couple of games I had of that. Like to play it some more. Fun little game.
That's surprising. I thought Tales of Glory would have snuck in there.
I'm really surprised that that's not appeared anywhere. I really am, considering how much you played it.
Well, yeah, there's only so many slots, for God's sake. I mean, it almost certainly counts as an honourable mention, but it does seem to have got mentioned. I've mentioned it to death over the last year or so. But then there's an argument as if I mentioned it to death, then maybe it should be in the top 5. But it's suffering slightly from the fact that Ares have only just got off their arses and released Wave 3. So I've finally got some Spanish ships, although only if you live in the States, apparently, which is a bit frustrating. So it's getting there slowly. And yeah, probably rates an honourable mention. It was a tough list this year because I was kind of conscious, I don't know about anybody else, but I was looking at the potential candidates for the list and going, this would be such a boring and predictable list if I wanted it to be. You know, I could have literally gone Sales of Glory, Chain of Command, Dutch Britannia, Shot Practice 2, I Ain't Been Shot Mom, in some order. And we'd have had very little to talk about because we talked about most of them.
Indeed. How about you, Mr. Luff? Have you got any honourable mentions?
Honourable mentions. Well, we've already sort of mentioned them, haven't we? Where we've got Sharp Practice and Saga. Obviously, Sharp Practice with the project that we will start hopefully sometime next year. But apart from that, it's probably an older game that we did used to play, which is Blue Sky Red Sand, the gladiatorial game, sort of skirmish game, which I don't know. As we played it, we really sort of got a feeling of what actually was happening, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense. It wasn't very well. You just really got a feel of what both characters were doing. It's a very narrative game in the fact of as you go through the combat, it really does tell a story, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. It really tells a story, and we did sort of start a gladiator score, didn't we? And we haven't touched it for a while because sort of Change of Command came along, and we were full speed ahead. Yeah, we got distracted making that stuff, weren't we? So yeah. There's a theme going on here. We get distracted. Yes, indeed. No, good game. Yes, it's excellent game. Well, yes, we shall have to do some more of that. Yeah. Oh, of course, with Conan, because you got Conan, we now got some like creatures. We got like wolves and lions and hyenas. Oh right, you'll have to paint them then. Painting Conan figures. There's a slippery slope. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, who did that?
Do it.
Well, I think that just about covers our favourite games of 2016. So what we'll do is we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have a chat about what should we do? Oh, let's talk about our favouriteest hobby purchase of last year. Twenty 2017 is a bit of a year of milestones for the Meeples and Miniatures podcast, especially as we go into our 10th year of broadcasting. And one of those milestones is the fact that we've finally got around to launching a Patreon campaign. Now, Patreon is a crowdfunding website. It's run by the same people who run Kickstarter. And it's designed specifically for those people who create stuff on an ongoing basis. Whether that's podcasters, producers of videos, music, books, other media. And what it does, rather than doing a one-off payment, it means that people can donate on a regular basis to a show that they like. When I started Meeples and Miniatures, say 10 years ago, I never imagined it would be where it is today. And, whilst it's a hobby, it takes up quite a bit of my life. In one way, shape or form. And as you can appreciate, there is a financial aspect to that. And we've been very fortunate over the years to have a very generous sponsor with Rich Clark from Two Fat Lardies, and also several regular donations and other one-off donations from a number of listeners. And they have always been hugely helpful in keeping us going. And Patreon is just another way of providing those people who wish to an easy way of supporting the show. So we've set up a campaign with a number of funding levels, anything from $1, $2 or $3 up to there's a deluxe level of $15, which if you back for long enough means that you get hold of an exclusive Meeples and Malicious dice pack. The backing level is per show as opposed to per month. So it basically means that you never pay for something that we don't produce. I just want to point out that there is an option to cap your payments to a maximum level per month. So you can always operate within a certain budget. So if you wish to support the show and do so via Patreon, that option is now available to you. Okay, you can find links to it on the donate page on the website. There's also an icon on the main web page as well. And right up front, if you do choose to support the show, I'd just like to say immediately, thank you ever so much, and we really appreciate your support. We want to make the best podcast we possibly can, and your support will help us to do it. Thank you. This is a shout out from Dean Clark. Dean would like to give a shout out to the lads of Statesboro Historical Gaming Society and all his mates from those crazy GWUS days. If you want to know more about shout-outs, please check out our Patreon page. The link is on the website. Okay, so this is perhaps a slightly swifter section of the show after our top 5. I just thought we'd have a quick chat about our best hobby purchase from last year. What was the best thing that each of us bought during 2016? Yes, so we're going in reverse order from last time around to give us a slight change. Mr. Luff, did you buy anything last year?
Did I buy anything last year? You know, I was racking my brains about this actually, and I don't think I actually bought anything last year at all. I'm trying to think. I bought like a couple of pots of Vallejo.
When did you buy a glider? Did you buy? Was that the year before?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about that. I think I bought the glider the year before, didn't I? And I bought that at Salute, so it wasn't this year.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because let's face it, all that wound up was bought at Salute. Was it Neil bought something for Dave, or Dave bought something for Neil? I can't remember.
Did you buy a laser pointer or something? Or did you get given that?
Oh, that was it. Yeah, laser pointer. Yeah, but I don't think I bought that.
Have to say though, they are really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my cat loves it.
I remember. I still remember Nick Skinner's face when we used 2 laser pointers to sort on the chain of command table at 2 Fat Lardies.
Sort out the patrol phase.
Patrol phase at Market Larden. And Nick kind of went, "Ooh," like
that. That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I must admit, I've got one for Sales of Glory because it's much easier for calculating arcs of fire.
We ought to say actually that it's not the straight pointers we're talking about. We're talking about the ones that actually throw the laser onto the table.
Yeah, it has the line. Yeah, it's the line ones. Yeah,
they are well nice. They're actually a very good. Thank you, Army Painter, for that one. Since I think most people own the Army Painter one.
Indeed.
I'm glad to go and get some of them.
You are. They are unbelievably handy for settling line of sight arguments.
You end up finding lots of uses for them. You do that you never even thought of.
So Hobbsy's just a laser point. Luffy's laser pointer by the sound of it.
Yeah, that's probably it. Which I didn't buy because I think Neil bought it. Or did I buy it for Neil?
It was one or the other.
It was one or the other. I can't remember.
I think I owed Neil £3 or something.
You must be married, you two.
Yeah. So there we go.
You can't actually remember who bought things.
Yeah, but apart from that, I don't think I've bought anything. I was trying to wrap my brains if we actually bought anything to sort of like do the chain of command stuff, but no, we didn't because I had virtually all the bits and bobs and paint and scraps of whatnot that we needed to scratch build things already lying around between the two of us.
Yeah. Right, okay. So, Mr. Whitaker.
Should come as no surprise. That big box up there, the 3D printer. Very definitely. Been a bit of an eye-opener, that has.
Well, I mean, it would almost appear from your constant Twitter, Facebook, and blog updates that it's almost paid for itself already.
Given it cost me the neck end of $1,000, no.
Well, what's the phrase? What's the phrase? Give it 6 months.
Not for want of trying. I mean, I've had out of it already the biggest blooming convoy, as the scenario title put it, which was about 4 feet of trucks in 15mm scale.
Did you put a duck on one of them?
No. Tempting though it was. There were another 8 Canadian military pattern 1500 weight trucks for the Italy scenario around the other week. I've figured out how to do proper 3D in SketchUp, Google SketchUp. So the Italy table that I did the other week also had some buildings, which were 3D printed, which I was very pleased with actually once I got that all figured out. A couple of Christmas tree ornaments, a couple of cookie cutters for the wife. It really is an awesome little piece of kit, as long as you treat it right. And remember that it doesn't like having the power turned off when it's hot, because the way the temperature equalises, you can get filaments stuck in the nozzle if you do that. So I'm seriously considering, given that our power has been a bit flaky here lately, I'm seriously considering plugging it into a UPS just so that stuff doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing to remember for anybody else who's got one is when you're not using it, take the filament out, eject the filament and stick it back in its bag with its little bit of silica gel, because the stuff is mildly hydroscopic and it will get wet and swell, which again is a recipe for having headaches getting your filament out your printer. So, yeah, it's a solution. It's not perfect and it's not up there completely with the resolution of, say, a Plastic Soldier Company kit. But as I've said before, the Sherman Jumbo I'm holding here that I really ought to get around to assembling and painting at some point passes the 2-foot test with miles to spare.
Cool.
Can I go on record and say something?
Go ahead.
Go on.
Because, we have had words about...
We have had many words.
Many words. But Mr. Whitaker showed me some at, when we went to Equipment Beast. And I was quite impressed.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
You're a very gracious gentleman, Mr. Hobbs.
That's okay. I still don't think it's going to change the hobby in anything like 2 years. But I was really impressed with the quality of them. They do need a bit of a cleaner, Mike, but it's minor. So yeah, I was very
2 minutes. 2 minutes with a bit of 200 grade, and you'll have something that's pretty decent. I said the one thing I'm fine with is because it doesn't do overhangs to that degree. Is I do wind up getting slightly teardrop-shaped wheels on trucks, and you have to sand the bottom off a bit just to get them properly round. But apart from that, it's ridiculously nice. What's not to like?
It will be interesting to see how they come on. They're going to come cheaper. The speed of them, I think, will be interesting to see.
There is the fundamental physics of printer filament means that always the filament deposition ones are not going to get much faster, and if you want more detail, they're going to be slower, and there's not a lot you can do about that. I suspect that the FDM, the laser SLA ones are more likely to speed up, because the ones that basically lays into a tank of resin and set the resin where the laser hits are probably going to be the ones that will see the biggest strides in bang for buck and resolution per buck over the foreseeable future. I think I may be wrong, and I'll be quite happy to be proved wrong, but I don't think FDM will get much better in terms of resolution, just because of the very nature of the technology. You're still going to be forcing a 1.5 mil diameter piece of melting filament through a nozzle, and I think there are probably some lower limits to what you can achieve with that.
Yeah.
And I think the stereolithography with tanks of resin and lasers is probably going to catch that up and beat it. I mean, the Form 2 is getting which is the probably the best of the desktop stereolithography ones, is getting close to the price of my CL Robox now. And I think that's still going to drop further as people figure out ways of doing the technology that doesn't break the bank.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing. I think what we're seeing now is like a first generation 3D printer. Like you say, it's pushing the boundaries of what it can do, but it's where it goes after that.
I will at some point. Assuming that the wife hasn't spent money on something, at some point I'll probably when the SLA printers drop in price tomorrow, I'll probably buy an SLA one as well, just to see what we can do with that. It will be interesting to see, certainly. But anyway, I think we've probably talked more about 3D printing in the last N episodes of the show than we have in the last decade. So, moving on. Hopsy.
Hopsy.
Well, mine's much more old school. My best purchase of 2016 is Command & Color's Ancients.
Ooh.
I guessed wrong.
It was a toss-up between that and Games Workshop textured paint. Funny enough.
Ooh,
I didn't know.
Okay.
But
not the daylight lamp then.
No. No. It's. I've had a bit of a epoch year. I've changed from being a pure wargamer to being somebody who appreciates board games now. Probably due to this show, and probably down to Dave. And
you've seen the light.
Love of board games. I've seen the light, yeah. And I'll be honest, I was a snob. I played war games or RPGs. I thought board games were just, Risk was okay. Otherwise, it was just Monopoly and Buckaroo. But
does this mean we might actually be Meeples and miniatures next year?
Yeah, Buckaroo's a great game. How dare you?
I didn't say it wasn't, Dave. I've spent many an hour drunk playing Buckaroo, trying to get the thing to balance before you even start.
How many swords did you fall off the horse?
Yeah. Fallen off the horse many times. You little git shook. I'll give you that one. But anyway, coming back to the point, I got into board games. Okay, I did buy Heroes of Normandy before, but I kind of saw that as a crossover game. I didn't see it as a board game. I didn't see it as a war game. It was something else.
Yeah.
But as soon as I played Command & Colors, it was like it was the light bulb moment. And I bought Command & Colors Ancients, and I played most of the scenarios in the core box. I got a few of the expansions, and I became quite addicted to it. And the odd thing is, I bought The Great War on the Kickstarter, and it arrived, and I put it into my cupboard, and I thought, I must get around to playing that. And then I dragged it out, and we had a game, and I was like, oh god, this is good. This is Command & Colors as well. And Battle Lore pushed on to another stage, and the Napoleonic version is pushing on to another stage, and it's opening my eyes to board games now. I'm going into Firestorm now, and the first place I walk to is the board game section, and I keep looking at all these great boxes, thinking there's a game in that box. And it's no longer a case of buying a set of rules, buying a load of figures, and waiting 6 months to actually play a game. I've got a box, I can take it home, and I can play a game. If I had friends. And yeah, it has been a real step change in how I do my gaming this year. It'll be interesting to see where we go. So there we go.
I've tried to be good this year and failed. I mean, I've not had a bad year as far as hobby purchases are concerned. But what is my best hobby purchase? You could argue that the best purchase that turned up was Conan, but I bought that 2 years ago. So does that really count?
No, that's why it wasn't mine.
So, oh crikey! Okay, so I think actually probably my best purchase of this year, and it's something that Mr. Luff will laugh at me about, is the fact that I'm finally starting to convert to Vallejo paints. Mr. Luff has been banging on to me about Vallejo paints for, I don't know, ever? Yeah, so Mr. Luff has been banging on me forever about Vallejo paints. And I finally started using them this year. And I've gone, these are pretty decent, aren't they?
So many jokes, so little time there. Finally using any paints would be a start, wouldn't it?
Well, there is a point. Yeah, I suppose you do have a point on that one. Yeah. And especially the little discovery of Vallejo Metal Medium, which I've been using to paint my Terran Planetfall army, and it just completely transforms how you know any other paint you mix it with, and so I know you can. There is a danger you could potentially overuse metallics, but metallics on like sci-fi armor, especially if you just dry brush it over the top, as opposed to doing anything massively heavy with it, it just works. And it was simply an idea. Again, it was an idea that Dave was talking about not only Vallejo paints but the different mediums and stuff that they do. And I'm a convert, so despite all my Coat d'Armors paints that I've currently got in my collection. And I do have the odd one or several dozen. I think in future I'm going to be buying Vallejo, and indeed I've got Josh started on Vallejo. When Josh has started, Josh is really because with Josh moving out, is at the point where he's had to get his own paints rather than borrowing mine. And so we started on using Vallejo as opposed to anything else. So, I mean, I know we all have our own favourites, but I would suggest, my best purchase this year has actually been getting into Vallejo paint. So there we go. Stunned silence.
Mm. Just the fact you were talking about paints.
I don't know if you've forgotten, but several weeks ago now, actually it was back at the start of November-ish, we talked about Tabletop Wargames Designers Writer's Handbook. And obviously we talked about it since, but okay, when we first brought it up, I did actually set a competition and said, if you wanted a copy of the book and you were willing to write a review of it, then send me in an email and I'll send you the book on the single condition that you write a review of it. And we never actually announced the winner of that, so let me put that right just now. The winner and the person who gets the chance to read the book for themselves, make up their own mind, and write a review of it, that can either go on their blog or they can send it in to us and we'll publish it, okay? The winner of that is John Youngling. Congratulations, John. I've already got your address, so I'll pop that in the post to you and hopefully you'll get it before too long. Okay, thanks to everybody who entered the competition. Hopefully this year we'll get to win a few more. And so that leaves us with one category left for our review of 2016.
Oh boy!
This could potentially be fitting as a very grumpy gamers section, but we'll leave it separate. Okay, so our worst game of 2016. You've heard us talk about our favourite games of 2016, but I'm sure whenever you play a game, there is one game usually in a year that stands out as being a complete stinker. I think if you don't have a game like that, then you're quite lucky. I think most of us might have come across one. I suspect that myself and Mr. Luff's are the same. So, Mr. Luff, what is your worst game, or actually, what is our joint worst gaming experience of last year?
Dear. Yes, this is obviously my personal opinion. Other opinions are available. And we both chose this and didn't actually realise that we'd both chose this. So there we go. But it's got to be Poseidon's Warriors.
Indeed, yeah. It's that set of ancient naval warfare rules from Osprey.
Yeah, I think the main problem with it is that we've been spoiled really from let's say from Saga onwards, and probably a bit before there. But I think in some respects, for me personally, within the hobby, that was sort of a turning point. That all of a sudden there seemed to be some very innovative gaming mechanics coming out. People were bringing out just new ways of looking at older games. And when I played Poseidon, I really thought, well, what new is it bringing that I haven't seen or played before? And the answer was, well, nothing really. And then when it came down to it, was the movement micromanagement, which is normally something that kills it for me in a game, to be honest. And of course, the unit cohesion after you've sort of declared a charge, which became sort of interesting if you can have a charge in a naval combat game. But yeah,
well, of course you can. We're ramming each other.
Well, yes, we're ramming each other.
If that doesn't count as a charge, what does?
Yeah. I mean, maybe there was something in the. Maybe there was an errata somewhere that managed to rectify that rule either after or before we played that game. But yeah. It didn't really, unfortunately, tick any boxes.
No, I agree. I mean, I really wanted to. I mean, flipping out. I bought a whole load of the top-down ships, and I made them all up on foam board and all sorts. I really wanted to like the game. I really did, because I'm thinking, ancient war galleys. I could quite get into that. I mean, I enjoyed naval games and what have you, and it's like, I'm looking forward to this. As you say, at that point, that one combat, when the fateful thing occurs and you end up in a situation where unit cohesion suddenly becomes more important than the fact that you've got an enemy galley right in front of you. And there was that, what moment? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think, and we hit it at the same time, to the fact that we were sure we were playing the rules wrong.
Yeah, we did.
Absolutely
Actually, we spent a good while looking through the rules, didn't we?
Absolutely convinced we were playing it wrong. And then it was like, no, that's what he says.
I think that's something to all games makers and war games rules writers, full stop, to be honest, out there, to just like, if you're not bringing anything to the table, you need to probably really take another new look at what you're doing with your game. If it's not new, as in something interesting mechanical wise, I don't see the point of rinsing and repeating what's been done before.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it, and it was, as I say, it was one of those things that we played it, and having played it, we looked at it and went, would we ever want to play this set of rules? Is there anything in this set of rules that will make us want to play it again? And we looked at each other and went,
no. But that doesn't happen very often with us.
It doesn't. It doesn't at all. And
we can normally always find something.
Yeah, we can find at least one redeeming feature. And unfortunately, this time round, no.
We couldn't.
It's a shame. So that was our worst. That was both of our worst games of 2016. Poseidon's Warriors. Who wants to go next?
What you got, Hobbsy?
This is quite a tricky one because, unlike you, Neil, I'm quite. I was going to say picky about the rules I play, but I tend to do. I don't have much time for gaming.
Yeah.
So I tend to stick with games that I know about or ones that I've seen, or I tend to do a bit of research into playing the game. Or usually I've had it for about 2 years and I've only just got the armies together because I won't play games with unpainted figures. Which
Good
means
man.
I've had a chance to roll.
You're a good man. I'm impressed by you.
I'm a good. But there was one which sort of stuck out, and it came from a review that you did, and we discussed it on the podcast. So I went and I had a demo of it, and I just couldn't get on with it at all. And it's Gale Force 9's Tanks. It just didn't work. And I know it's a really popular game, and lots of people are playing it. But it's basically what Dave just said. It just didn't seem to do anything. It was just a sort of mere game, and the fact that you can play it in half an hour, just I think I'd rather just sit at the bar and drink a coffee and chat to my mates for half an hour than play it. You know, if I was playing and somebody said, "Come on, let's play it," we got half an hour, then yeah, I would give it a go. But I wouldn't turn up at a friend's house and arrange to play the game, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. It was a close run thing, to be honest, between me talking about Poseidon's Warriors and talking about Tanks. If nothing else, I think my biggest thing, I think, with Tanks, it wasn't so much the worst game. It was certainly, for me, the biggest disappointment. Because I just saw it as a missed opportunity. It could have been so much better.
Yeah, it just didn't work for me.
No, I agree.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
But if you're good for you, I'll just be at the bar drinking coffee.
No, I'll go with that.
So that's mine.
Mr. Whitaker remains silent at this point.
Well, we've had that argument.
I think we have.
We have.
What's the phrase? On more than one occasion.
Yes, and I unlike the one about 3D printing, I don't think we're going to gain anything by rehashing it.
Indeed not. So what's the phrase? Moving swiftly on.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a worst game. I possibly have a worst class of game.
Go on then.
And I've started to identify a rather disturbing trend upon the web pages of one of the larger figure manufacturers with a sideline in games, which is to say that they appear to have a range of figures they want to sell. And as far as I can see, they appear to be doing this by reading through a copy of Tabletop Wargaming: A Designer's Handbook and creating a set of rules to sell them. I refer. I think you know. I think you know of which I refer.
Yes.
Namely, the new zombies rules and the upcoming samurai rules. And I may be doing them a disservice here, but it does seem to me that there's a degree of, oh crap, we have a figure range we need to sell. There's no way they'll sell without a set of rules. Quick, let's lash a set of rules together.
Yes, because I suppose Project Z's inherited from all the
Games Factory.
For the War Games Factory is Zombies and Survivors.
Yeah.
And obviously the samurai stuff that they announced a couple of weeks ago,
War Games Factory,
is a War Games Factory samurai.
Yeah. And there's a degree to which now Bolt Action, I think, manages to transcend its way out of that a bit, in that it's not quite a set of rules to sell figures in the same way that Flames of War isn't quite, but it's damn close. And I think, having played Beyond the Gates of Antares, I have to say that I reiterate Dave's comments about the Poseidon games. You know, please do something new. It very much felt like any number of Games Workshop buckets of dice games, but we'll use D8s just to be different.
Yeah. That is my one fear with things like the stuff that Osprey are doing, for example. The one thing with Osprey producing all these little kind of 64-page little independently authored games, it gives you both ends of the spectrum. You know, there are actually some very good games within there.
In Her Majesty's name.
In Her Majesty's name, running.
Men Who Would Be King.
I've got some more.
X rampant for values of X.
Indeed. So, there are some very decent games in that list. In there, there is also the odd turkey. and then stuff in the middle. But as you say, there are rules that are not designed to sell a miniatures range.
Osprey, even if they're working in close liaison with the likes of Nick at North Star, do not have a figure range to sell. They're not in the business of using the rules as a vehicle to promote their figure ranges. They just produce rules. And most of them, I would say, are above average and are usually innovative in some way.
Yes.
I'm just rather conscious of the fact that the rules to some of the new Warlord offerings are a bit of an afterthought in an attempt to shift the figures.
It will be interesting to, and also, you start struggling with things like, and their IPs. It will be interesting to see what the final rules for Doctor Who's like, for example, or whether that will follow the same tried and tested formula. Similarly, for now they've got Judge Dredd, or the 2000 AD, should I say. It will be interesting to see what they do with it. It's interesting this year how quickly Terminator has hit bargain bin. That even Warlord are selling it off at crazy discount.
I'd be honest, I had completely forgotten that existed, which is not a good advert for it.
I suppose the thing you can take away from it is even though you got an IP, it doesn't mean there's actually a game in it. It makes me wonder what they can do with Doctor Who, because I don't know how you can do a Doctor Who game.
7TV managed it.
I don't think they really did. I mean,
the problem with Doctor Who is it's better as an RPG.
Yeah, it is, and that's exactly it. Because you've got a couple of heroes, or you got a hero, his plucky sidekick, and a couple of hangers-on for that episode.
Hobbsy single-handedly deconstructs every episode of Doctor Who ever.
It's not difficult.
Yeah, but it's...
But don't knock them, they work.
Oh, yeah, I'm not knocking it.
Really make a game.
Yeah.
You've also, to a degree, single-handedly deconstructed every episode of a role-playing campaign ever, with the observation that, in fact, there's slightly more equality between the hero and the plucky sidekick and the hangers-on than there is necessarily in the episode of Doctor Who. But it doesn't really lend itself to a war game, does it?
Exactly, yeah. It makes a good role-playing game, but everybody wants to be the heroes. Or you get one person being the baddies. And I don't know how that equates to a war game. It'll be an interesting one. I'd like to see what they do. I mean, I got a lot of respect for Warlord. They have built themselves up really, really quickly. I will say, and this is controversial, I've got more respect for Warlord than I have for Mantic. Because I think in the past, Mantic have just chucked rules out on the whim of their Kickstarter community. And then,
yes, that's controversial.
Yeah.
Mantic's first editions tend to be pretty decent because they're written by the likes of J.K. Alessio. The problem is they then go decide that they need to sell another lot of figures, so they've got to create another set of rules. By which time the likes of J.K. Alessio have moved on, and somebody else who doesn't understand what makes the rules hold together ends up writing them.
This brings us all into the way that the hobby is going. The hobby is changing.
I note with interest, did anybody else get the Mantic New Year announcement?
I haven't watched it.
Let me just quote a sentence from it, which I found quite interesting, which is New Year's, new games. Ronnie's preview of 2017. Let's do the... Hang on, let's find the right bit. This year... Which, of course, I now can't find, which is really annoying. Here we go. The plan for the future is to focus more and more on making our products available through your local hobby stores rather than running lots of Kickstarter campaigns. This means we're making more new organised play packs as well as improving the existing ones. We'll still use Kickstarter to help us with the bigger projects so we can go large and hard at launch, just like we did this year, but on some we might limit the pledges to exactly the funding needed. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, because no bricks and mortar shop sells Mantic stuff because it just doesn't sell.
Wonder why that is? Because everybody's already got it.
Yeah. Anyway, I agree with you, Mike. It is a worrying trend that we're seeing, and the smaller, innovative rules designers are getting sidelined and pushed out.
Except how many of them wound up in our top fives?
This is where the hobby divides. And I suspect that the people that enjoy listening to this podcast will side with us in their in their potential choice of rules. But and again, I mean, this is an argument we talked on a couple of occasions about recently. Is that is that the mainstream of the hobby? And I would suggest at the moment the answer is no, which, as you say, is a potential concern for the future of the hobby. But at the same time, Mike's written a couple of really good articles in the past about how the hobby is changing and how he sees things. When you look at, for example, what games are played at somewhere like Firestorm, for example, where you get to see a larger range of gamers, and you look at what's going on and what's popular. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because, as I say, we are champions of independent, smaller firms because we know the quality of what they produce. Getting that message out to the average gamer to say, excuse me, guys, you don't have to play an average game. You can play a really good game. The only difference is it may not be as well publicised as the game you are playing. And this is where, as I say, this is where the tension and the issues occur. Because, again, I suppose it depends on your gaming group. It depends where you play. If you're in a situation where the only game in town is playing Flames of War or Bolt Action, what are you going to do? You're going to play Flames of War or Bolt Action because that's what your gaming group plays. If you've got a gaming group that is more open to playing different games and seeing what else is out there, then makes it a bit of a different ball game.
A thought that has just occurred to me, thinking about Warlord's range of figures particularly. Given the investment you need to play Black Powder, I'm really, really surprised I haven't brought out a Napoleonic skirmish rule set yet.
What's the phrase? Give them time.
Chosen men, but then it's not theirs, so...
Yes. It's interesting, isn't it? Considering how much, and that question, how much, we've gone on this year about sharp practice. Being that excellent rule set for any sort of Black Powder period. Right up till, ACW and beyond. It would be interesting to see if Warlord even decide to go there. With anything they do.
Yep.
Or whether they'll just turn around and say, no, we produce mass battle games.
Except they don't.
No.
Apart from the big three, Hail Caesar, Point Shot, Black Powder, everything else they produce is designed to shift a couple of boxes of figures aside.
Well, you'd argue against that with Bolt Action. Bolt Action is designed to shift more than that.
A couple of boxes, a box of figures aside, and some
and lots of tanks.
And lots of tanks.
And
yeah,
other vehicles. Yeah.
Tanks,
And don't forget your artillery.
But it's still shush.
Hang on. Hang on a couple of boxes of figures, some tanks, and some artillery. What game does that remind you of?
But it's still Platoon Plus. It's not Company.
Yeah. It's just a big plus.
Unless you read what's said about it in that book, where that was a big shock. Where yes, in the book that shall not be named, it's actually described as a company level game. It's like, I'm sorry.
That's because you play it in company with somebody else.
Sorry. Let's step away from that one, shall we?
I think we should.
No, it's not a solo game, Neil.
No, indeed not. Yes. again, 2017, it'll be interesting to see what the hobby has in store, and whether they.
Well, I did open a can of worms there, didn't I?
Yeah, you did just a little bit. Yeah, it will be interesting to see what's in store. It will be interesting to see the sort of thing that comes out. I mean, my hope is that the independent game manufacturers will continue to produce stuff, because there have been there's been some wonderful little things cropping up in the year, and stuff that is just completely like non-mainstream. I mean, you start talking about things like, Panzerfaust, things like Badgers and Burrows. There's been loads of little things this year, and I really, really hope the Hobbit, that carries on. We see more innovation.
Well said.
So here we are at the end of the first show of 2017. We've made it in, a couple of hours-ish. So here we are. It's the start of a new year. And what hobby resolutions do we have for 2017? From a podcast point of view, it's just a little bit of feedback. All the feedback we appear to have had so far basically suggested that we should do this kind of shorter and more often. But people would like to have a bit more of us in some of the shows. So we'll work on that. So one of the hobby resolutions, well, at least as far as the show is concerned, is that at the moment we'll kind of keep it to weekly. We'll probably end up doing more reviews and a few less interviews, and there'll be a bit more banter in each show. Other than that, we'll see where it goes. But, guys, hobby resolutions for 2017. Have you got one?
Mine's the usual. Try not to get too distracted.
Same as Neil's then.
What's the phrase from Gold Squadron? Stay on target. Stay on target.
For me, it'd be finish the bulk of the chain of command stuff that I've got left over to do.
Reduce the lead and plastic pile.
What, as in sell, or as in the pile that's waiting?
As in get it in a wargameable state, and try not to add to it either. Not that that's going to happen, but it's a win of net completed versus added to the incomplete pile. I think is the aim for this year.
Yeah, don't try and track it, Mac. I tried that one year and it got very depressing.
Depressing is a very depressing thing, I'm sure.
Mm.
Painted one, bought 2 armies.
Yeah, that problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was, of course, painted 1 figure, bought 2 armies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think mine's going to be similar to last year, because it almost worked. I mean, I kind of fell off the painting wagon in September, and I haven't painted a lot since September because I got distracted with other things. Okay, but again, what I'd like to do this year is to finish my German chain of command armies, because I do actually have 3, of which I've only kind of half done 1. So I've got a load of vehicles and 2 platoons of infantry to do. Other than that, it's play shop practice. So at the moment, I'm only planning on buying 1 army this year, which is my shop practice one. It's potentially dangerous because if Mr. Clark is toying with the idea of doing ancient shop practice, that could get messy.
Yeah, Mr. Clark is a terrible man for making us do things.
He is.
No, I'm fine for that. I've already got several ancient armies. I have no problems at all. So Yabu sucks the lot of you.
I really must do something about 6-mil ancients. Other than that, we'll see.
I've only got half an army left on my to buy list at the moment, which is my 20 mil World War II, the 1940 German stuff I was doing. So I'm going to get some more of that at Crusade in January from Early War Miniatures.
That's I remember that. Yeah.
That's all I really want to sort of pick up, and then paint some Belgiums.
Don't believe you.
Yeah, it's. I don't know whether it's Mr. Luff, But I'm kind of coming around to his way of thinking with this dilution of the hobby.
Oh dear.
I don't know what's happening because normally I'm very much of a butterfly.
It's going to make our top fives next year really boring.
To be honest with you, Mike, is that a bad thing? I am looking forward to the Napoleon version of Pickett's Charge because I think the Napoleon War armies that I got would fit into that perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's something I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
And I got those armies done.
Just when Gareth thought he'd seen the last of those. I've
still got a few more to send in, but I've got enough for a game, but I haven't got enough for a big game, pop a game, 18 mil Napoleonics heading your way to finish what you're doing at the moment.
Yes.
And there's my War and Empire stuff as well, which became, I've been using for 5 years. 5 years solidly. I've been sending Gareth figures literally every month or so.
Well, I've just been thinking that if I actually spent the money I spend on buying stuff, sending figures to Gareth, I'd probably get the unpainted file down quite considerably by the end of the year.
It is.
Now, there's a thought.
It's amazing having armies painted that you can play different sorts of rules with them.
Or Luch, the Obby back.
It's the same figures. Is that a dilution?
Depends how many sets of rules you can keep in your head, mate.
Yeah, not that many these days.
Well, okay. So what you can do, you can come back and check with us in 6 months and turn around and say, so how's your gaming resolutions going on? Ask it. Yes, ask Mr. Hobbs the next time he walks past a wobbly shelf at Firestorm Games.
Board games don't count.
Oh, is that the rule, Dave?
That's always been the rule between me and Shucky. Board games don't count.
Excellent stuff.
Excellent. I've got some board games coming next year. That'll be all right. I've got 2 big board games coming next Christmas. So as I say, you can check back with us in 6 months' time and challenge us on whether or not we're keeping to our New Year's gaming resolutions. I mean, you could
6 months. Come on.
I was going to say, tell you what, 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Yeah. We'll see where
What's your resolution then, Neil?
Mine was paint me Germans.
Fat
and
chance. Fat chance. That's failed already.
Thanks for that, Dave. Thanks for that vote of confidence.
Well, I just thought it'd just save you the pain now. That was all, Neil. I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay. So all that's left to be said is thank you once again for listening to our gaming roundup of 2016. I hope you've enjoyed it. And thank you once again to my podcast brothers in arms. Thank you to the Welsh Wizard for getting off his sickbed and joining us for a couple of hours. Thank you, Mr. Hobbs.
No problem. Happy New Year, one and all.
Indeed. Thank you to Mr. Whitaker. Thank you for putting your cake aside for a couple of hours.
You're welcome. That's a thought. I fancy a piece of cake.
Can you 3D print it?
Probably could.
Really?
Wouldn't be very edible.
I don't know.
Well, you can 3D print chocolate now.
I was going to say, surely the technology will come to the point where you can do it with chocolate and fondant icing.
You can already do it with chocolate and fondant icing, as I understand it, given the right machine.
Starting to get distracted here, chaps.
Now there's a gaming experience for 2017. 3D printed miniatures out of chocolate, and when your unit is destroyed, your opponent gets to eat them.
Yeah, that'd be a brilliant one for figure makers, wouldn't
That'd be brilliant. There you go. And thank you once again to Mr. Luff, whose sensible brand of gaming appears to be currently infecting the entire group.
Well, it's terrible. If it catches on worldwide, I'm going to be in trouble. I'll be just like, I'll be on a hit list, won't I, of all the major gaming companies out there.
I was going to say, you'll be single-handedly responsible for the collapse of half the wargaming companies.
Yeah, well, it was about 10 years ago. I nipped into because I was up that way, Sheffield War Games Emporium, and I nipped in there, and the chap in there that runs it, I forgot his name now. He's very, very helpful, very likable chap. And he was like, "Oh, is there anything I can help you with? Anything you have to specifically?" And I said, "Oh, no, nothing. I've got my projects on the go for the year. Don't want anything else. I don't start anything until I finish what else I'm doing." And they were like, "Oh, crikey!" He says, "I hope that doesn't catch on."
Cool. That sort of attitude puts everybody out of business. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. You're not a proper war gamer, are you? So yeah, there you go. So yeah, wish everyone a happy New Year, and don't drink too much cooking lager.
Yes, so thank you all in all. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for making last year a brilliant year for Meeples and Miniatures, and look forward to spending a lot more time with you in 2017. Happy New Year, one and all, and we'll speak to you very soon. Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media, and here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.